Hi guys and girls, welcome back. So this video is going to be brief. I don't want to get on here too much longer, but I did want to share this painting that I've decided to dedicate to my mother who just transitioned to be with the ancestors last Friday. She was laid to rest yesterday, June 3rd, in Florida. I did not go. I chose not to go to her homegoing service. Even when she was being rushed to the hospital, I chose not to go. For me, everything is spiritual. Let's start there, right? I made a video on this very topic actually a couple days ago, talking about my mom's transition, talking about the events leading up to that. And for me, I've made my peace with it. I just don't see that it was necessary for me to go down to Florida. I understand though other people's perspective and they have their opinions on that, but I don't get consumed as much with other people's opinions or perspective. For me and just where I stand, I didn't think it was necessary, but my mom lives within me. Like I am my mother. I am 23 chromosomes of my mother. Of course, I at times have gotten emotional thinking about my mom, thinking about how she fought very hard. And I think she lived actually longer than what most people probably would have lived given her conditions that she had. She had multiple medical conditions. She had been on dialysis for at least over 10 years. She was going to dialysis 3 times a week, like it was a job, a part-time job. She even would call it her job, making a joke out of it. So it wasn't necessarily to my surprise to see that she was decompensating uh, physically, and she just had reached her end. It's like how much more can a person continue to fight when that's it, they're tapping out. And I think it was better for her, and we did have to make a decision, a medical decision, to take her off life support, which she was on life support for probably not even a full day, because it was determined that it was nothing that the providers really could do for her, and when it's a person's time, it's their time. And for me, I've already had made my peace with it, like for me, being a very spiritual, deeply spiritual person, I often experience and feel things before, and I can feel my mom's presence. I've been feeling it like over and repeatedly over and over again, even more so, I think, like leading up to her transition, but I definitely feel it now. But yeah, being that deeply spiritual person, like I sense things kind of before they even happen. And the last time I went down to Florida was in 2021. I actually was visiting. I came down there on emergency to visit my father, who had been rushed to the hospital. And I spent an entire 10 days with him in the hospital at his bedside, taking care of him. Like I was his nurse those days. And meanwhile, he got nursed back to health. He got released from the hospital. He's doing okay now. He continues to live, by himself in Jacksonville, Florida, in the same house he's always been living in. But during that time, I saw my mother. I visited her, and I noticed that she had lost a lot of weight. And it was my first time seeing her since 2015. So like 6 years, right, that I had last been to Florida, because I was out in Los Angeles for some of my doctoral studies, just really career focused. And then the pandemic happened in 2020, so that kind of set things off course too. But when I saw her in 2021, I'm just looking at her. I'm like, oh my gosh, she lost so much weight. Her lung capacity was not at its best. I felt like I spent ample time with her though. Like the time that we spent together was, you know, filled with good moments. It was, you know, filled with us doing things that I was catering to her, things that she enjoyed doing. I took her to all of her favorite restaurants throughout Jacksonville. We went, you know, and walked the outlet mall, and I noticed that she could not walk long distances, you know, without giving out a breath and needing to kind of sit down to regather her strength. And that was an indicator to me, like, okay, this is not looking good. You know, I seen her arm, and I seen where she had scarred tissue in her arm from like these repeat visits to dialysis. And it's just, I'm like, it's just something I never had seen before. And it just, I don't know, it kind of struck a nerve in me. And I'm just like, that was also indicator, you know, seeing that even though, you know, of course I took her to her favorite restaurants and she ate, she definitely ate. But outside of that, she wasn't really motivated to eat. And seeing that, that resonated. I'm like, okay, so all of these different things together, you know, was kind of giving me indication, like it was a question how much longer she would be with us. And that was back in 2021. And my last day down there in St. Augustine, that's where my mom's family lives. That's where she lived. My last day, I remember I was getting in the car and she walked me out. She walked me out to the car, and she was seeing me away, and you know, I got in, I fastened my seatbelt, and just tears began rolling down her eyes, and I'm looking at her like, why are you crying? She didn't answer. She had no words, but she was crying. And deep within my spirit, I knew that that was the last time that I was going to see her. I knew, like, you just know, right? It's not like how you know, you just know. It's like a connection. It's a deep feeling a deep spiritual feeling. It was just like my spirit to her spirit, and she looked me in my eyes, and her face was just filled with tears. And although I didn't cry, I felt the tears in my eyes. And I'm like, Mom, it's okay. I said, Mom, it's okay. I'm going to see you again, right? And, you know, I know she was sad. But it was just like, I think, like, she knew that that was the last time she was going to see me. But we still talk, you know, by phone since then. And I'm going to show you guys the painting in a minute. I just want to share this story. But, like, we would talk on the phone. And I spoke to her back in February. She wished me good luck on my licensure exam. And like just over this course, you know, of the time that we spent, you know, I could kind of feel that she was kind of slipping away. I sensed that. The depth of our conversations, it wasn't like my mom, she always been a burst of energy. Like she's the life in our family, you know, always up on her feet, you know, just very strong will and outspoken. She is that person. You guys could just imagine to see how I am, and especially how I present on camera. Like I get it from her, but she's me like 10 times, and she just be that very vocal person. And just to see that life force, that energy was slowly escaping her, like over these past months that she had, you know, here on this earth plane. And so that also was an indicator. And I told you guys in my previous video that I made on all the spiritual, and I talk about death and dating and how those two kind of parallel each other. But I said in that video how I saw like this image. There was an image that appeared like through my bedroom window on the white wall of a skeleton. And I had been seeing that ever since 2021 when I went to go visit my father. And my mom down there in Florida had been seeing that. And I had been seeing it and seeing it and seeing it. And I it was like, it wasn't until my mom got rushed to the hospital and then she transitioned that I stopped seeing it. Weird. But then now, after even I said that just the other day in my video that I no longer see it, it came back. I see it again. So I'm just like, what is the meaning of it? But it kind of makes sense though that it would disappear like my mom transitioned. It's like, okay, that's what that was about. So, you know, to make a long story short, like for me, I've made peace, and everyone deals with things differently. When it comes to funerals, I've said this when my mom was living, that I just don't do funerals. My mom made a joke. She was like, yeah, you're probably not going to come to my funeral. I'm like, are we prophesying? Are we prophesying? Clearly, it was a prophecy. My mom knows me, though. I'm not that type to do funerals. I just don't. Like, you got to drag me to go to a funeral. And the reason being is because I process death differently, and I choose to do that purposefully. Like, I don't want to create such experience over a person's passing that I am lamenting uncontrollably, which that usually is that's usually the tone at my family's funerals, you know, and it's kind of created by different members in my family, and it's in a big dramatic scene. And listen, not to judge them, that's how they do it, you know, but I do it differently because I see death, so to speak, and dying differently. Now granted, I had my moment. When was this? Was this yesterday? Was this yesterday? I think it was. I had my moment and I was wailing, yo. And it came over me, which is like something came over me. At first I was like sitting in my rocking chair and I was tearful. I was listening to music too. And I think I had just came back from this Jamaican Caribbean restaurant in Brooklyn called Negro, right? So I had a few drinks, and that definitely kind of awakens those chakras in a way, right? You know, that heart chakra is like, well, I'm wide open. I'm wide open, and I get back home, and I'm listening to music, and I'm just thinking about my mom. Granted, her going home service, her burial was yesterday, Saturday. So for me, I acknowledge that by going out to eat. You know, yes, meanwhile, my family is having the burial service at 1 p.m. yesterday, but this was like what I went out, I don't know what time it was. It was in the afternoon though, but it was rainy and everything. And when I came back, it's like my heart chakra was just open. I'm listening to music and I'm thinking about my mom, and I couldn't help it. It just came out, and I'm wailing. I know my neighbors heard me, but I'm wailing, y'all. And, you know, at times, you know, we can catch ourselves, right? Like, we're mindful and we have that regulation. But for me, like, I couldn't, yo. And I felt like a sense of calm and release, just allowing it to just flow. I let it flow, and, you know, I felt like it was my soul was just outpouring, you know, out to the universe. And I would imagine it connected and it landed where it needed to, because it was like a very distinct cry that I let out yesterday. And I know it was loud. I know it was vibrating, you know, on different levels. And I felt so good. Like after I had finished, I felt so renewed, rejuvenated. And even to this day, like till today, like I woke up this morning and yeah, it's just amazing, because it's just like, for me, I always feel comforted no matter what I go through in life. I always feel that I'm never alone, even though I may be physically alone. And so, like, I had a dream, and in the dream and the vision last night was family. I'm surrounded by family. So I know people want to make a differentiation between like our waking hours and our sleeping hours, but for me, sometimes there's no difference. It's like it kind of all bleeds together. And for me, my dreams are very spiritual, because I even have premonitions where I may dream about something and then it happens. right? So it's not that, oh, that's just a dream and then this is a different reality. It's all for me the same reality. And my dreams are very significant. And so for me to last night have a dream where I'm surrounded by family and we're having a good time and things are going well, that was also a sense of comfort to let me know, like, I'm okay. Before my mom's transition, I had a dream about her. She appeared to me, and I told this story in my last video entitled All Is Spiritual, but my mom appeared to me, and this, I think she was in the hospital, I think, at this time before she had actually took her last breath, but she was getting on me about something. She's just, I can't remember what the exchange was, what she said, but I just know like her look and she was like upset about, she got on me about something. I was like, I kind of dismissed what she said, but I commented on her look and I say, Mom, your hair is beautiful. I love your hair. And you're looking fabulous. Like your outfit, your dress is beautiful. And she looked back and she smiled and she was like, thank you. And whatever she was mad about is just dissipated, right? This was a dream. And so that was another reassurance. Like, it's okay. I don't feel like, I know for some people, they expect me to feel a certain way, whether that is guilt, regret, and I'm like, you can't project that onto me. I don't feel regretful that I didn't go because I have reasons why I did not go to Florida. When I got the call that she was being rushed to the hospital, I have a reason why I didn't go then, and I have a reason why I didn't go to the funeral. I have my reasons, and I feel very comforted in knowing that I made the right decision. And I do feel good that my mom is okay with it. Because I talked to her before she took her last breath. And I was told she didn't take her last breath until I talked to her. And that was the night that I went out. That's the reason why I made the video, right? In parallel to my mom's transition and talking about death, I was talking about dating because the two intersected, which I chose. Everything I do, understand this, is very calculated. That's what I think about me. I'm very conscientious and I'm very calculated and I'm very intentional about things that I do and things that I say. So me choosing on Friday, the same day that she transitioned, I went out on a date. The date was planned before she transitioned though, right? We went out on a date and then the date happened. And then that night, I think it was around 11 o'clock, she transitioned. I was like towards the end of the date, but I chose to still be with that person. So the date wasn't necessarily over. It was just like it continued at its place. And no, I didn't have intercourse, but there was a degree of intimacy. And for me, it had a different meaning that maybe this person don't even know, right? Kind of talked about it in my previous video. The video was very lengthy, so some of y'all probably didn't like watch the video in its entirety. But yeah, it had a significant meaning to it. And in that exchange that I had with the person that I went on a date with, I told him I wanted to get a spanking, right? And the spanking is more symbolic because that's what my mom did, right? With me, I would say, or to me, right? When I was younger, and it was more of beatings, which I have interpreted up until this day as abuse. But I'm kind of coming into a space of redefining that because I know for her, she set out with good intentions. For me, when she was giving me that discipline, that type of treatment. But I can talk about the pain, the physical pain, the bruises, the welts that were left that were often covered up with turtlenecks, and just even the emotional pain, the emotional scars that were left. And then I can talk about, my mom never really giving hugs and kisses. Like, that's something I initiated as an adult towards her. But growing up, I didn't get that. Hugs and kisses, right? Or I love yous, I can go into depth. That's not what this video is about. I just wanted to acknowledge that I do love my mom and I will always love her. I am her. And I, over time have come to, reconceptualize our relationship and the way she raised me, and knowing that she just did her best. And it began to make sense. I saw this quote, and this was a couple years ago. I saw the quote that said that our parents, the way they reared us is that they were preparing us for a world that really doesn't exist. But the world did exist in their time. And when you put things in that framework, it's like, oh, wow, that makes perfect sense. You think of the year my mom was born. My mom was born 1953. I'm 83. So my mom was born 30 years prior to my being born. And my dad was born 1941. They're 12 years apart. But just thinking of that era, like we're talking about in the crux of the civil rights movement. And when I did visit my mom back in 2021, she recapped, because I like to listen to stories of what it was like, and she would always tell me, but she definitely brought it to surface to share how things were back then and how, yes, it was still segregated, right? She grew up during segregation period. Things were like, obviously, yes, we live in a society where not much has changed. It's just been slightly transformed, right? And reinvented, right? So that it's not so as blatant, but if you have eyes, you can see things. Yes, we're still racially segregated. It's just deeply embedded and woven into the fabric of our society, so that it's just like hidden in plain sight, right? And it's a part of every system interlocking within our society, right? So no, they don't have to have laws that say whites can only go to this school and blacks go to this school, right? Those don't exist. However, strategically, they have decided in such a way that we're kept out in many ways. We're barred access and opportunity. And if we do gain a glimpse of that perceived opportunity, right, it's not equal. It's clear as day as to how and why Black people are at the bottom of the totem pole. This is done by design. It's clear as day why white people are at the top and they own and control all the resources, right? So going back to my mom, when I went to visit her in 2021, she talked about how, yes, there were segregated facilities. Hospitals and clinics were segregated, and Black people had their clinics they would go to by law, and white people had theirs. And the Blacks' facilities were run down, right? They didn't have the resources, the financial resources that went into proper upkeep of those facilities, and how there was different sections where Black people had to sit in the movie theater, right? And she said it was like up top, and white people got to sit, closer to the screen, right? In a comfortable position. But she made a joke to say, yeah, we will be throwing drinks and popcorn down there. So it's just like my mom kind of setting this background in terms of the world that she lived in, and walking 5 miles to get to school by foot, okay? Like, this is not made up. This is real life. This was her life, and so I honor that. And I put things into the proper context and seeing how, okay, it makes sense, not to say that it was justified, right? Like the treatment or lack thereof, but it is what it is, and I've been come to terms with that. I can talk about it. Of course, it's my story. But I've been come to terms with that. And so looking at my mom's transition, I see it as that, I see it as just a transition from one dimension to another. I do believe that we are eternal beings. And I do believe that there's a life force, a spirit, a soul within us that lives forever. That's my belief. I believe that my mom is still with me. I believe that I am my mother. that she lives through me, you know. So I did get to speak to her by phone before she took her last breath. She was unresponsive at that time, but I know she heard me. And at the point when she heard me and the phone call ended, she took her last breath, right? So I am not worried about other people's opinion or perspective or judgment of me. That's the least of my concern. And having said that, I am going to show you guys my painting that I did. Funny enough, I actually did the drawing at least over a month ago. I'm sure it's been a month that I did the drawing for this, and it just had been kind of sitting, waiting for me to add color to it, and what better time to do it. So I got up this morning and I decided to go ahead and paint. I had to actually, I know I was waiting because I had to get my paint materials from the office where I work. I had them up there, given that I use painting too as part of therapy when working with patients there. So this is my painting that I would like to dedicate to my mother. I say she's the strongest woman that I know. You know, just her strength has me speechless at times, and seeing everything that she's been through, and yet can still continue to go and put one foot in front of the other and carry a smile on her face. You know, many times she didn't, her face was just flat and she appeared to be angry, and she had every right to be angry. You know, being an adult and me approaching 40 is like you begin to understand your parents and their disposition a little bit better as you step more into that space, right? And putting things into the proper perspective. So I get it. I didn't get it as much when I was younger. Like, damn, why the hell she's so fucking mean and bitter and this and that? But I definitely understand it now. And yeah, just the fight. And so her transition for me actually was like I felt a wellspring of life that continues to pour into me. Like I feel it every single day. Like it's a push that damn, I have much even more reason to keep going. Even if I was thinking about giving up, I have even, you know, more reason to continue to fight, seeing like damn, she didn't give up. You know, it was only the universe that took her soul, but she was still fighting. She did not give up. She didn't want to give up. She was still fighting. And it was, you know, our decision to take her off life support. I'm just like, for her to continue to breathe, even in that state where she's unconscious and she's just weak, her body is tired, and she just continued to keep going. So seeing the strength of my mom is invigorating for me to just keep going and not give up until it's my time to give up. So I dedicate this painting to my mom. And of course, I love Mother Africa. So you see Africa there, and just nature, which embodies what I am connected to. And the colors that I chose, it's different colors. Some are natural earth tone colors, and others are just bright neon colors. But yeah, I think I'm going to put this in my bedroom, right across from my bed, actually. So there it is. And I'll post a picture so that you guys can see what it looks like in the actual orientation. That, what I showed you guys, is actually reversed because I'm live, so that's how a picture shows up. It shows up in reverse when you're live. So I'll post a picture on my Facebook so you guys can see what it actually looks like. And that's it. My heart is, I don't know, my heart is, I want to say heavy. It's light. I feel like it's light as a feather. That's how I feel. And I think it's a good space. Like, I accept it. And that's what it means to kind of come to peace with something or make peace. That's what I mean, is that it's a part of letting go. It's a process. It's just letting go and just accepting what is and not fighting, you know, just going with the direction of how things are going. And, you know, even for so long, if I have been in the opposite position where I felt like everything is within my control and wanting to stay on top of things and wanting to be in control of everything, you know, now it's just more about releasing. And that's a good space to be in, because at least I can just kind of sit back and just let things unfold, and knowing that it's okay. It's okay to be in that position, you know. And my destiny has already been determined. Everyone's destiny has, you know. So that's the irony to life. It's like we have our own vision and our own plans. We make our plans. And the universe laughs sometimes. Um, and sometimes, you know, they could coincide, like our plan and the universe plan for us can coincide. But, you know, I think sometimes we have to yield. And that's the place I'm at, in a yielding place. To the universe, the all, and what is, and allowing that to unfold. And I'm excited to see what's to come. I know it has to be something special for this to happen. And my dad is 81. He's 81. He'll be turning 82 in August. And so we'll see. My dad is getting up there. He's up there too. He's a fighter too now. He's a fighter too. And yes, I did visit him 2 years ago in 2021, and he was not doing well. And I was in that hospital room, and I smelled death. I smelled the stench of death pass through. I saw it, I smelled it, I felt it, but it wasn't time. Everybody has their time. I told my patients that, you know, and I'm very transparent with my patients. I told them, you know, why I had took off those days. I took off for like a week. And they were so excited to see me return. They were like, where were you? And I let them know, like, I had death in the family. My mom transitioned. And I said, listen, we all have our time, you know. And they're, like, some are feeling sad. Like, listen, it's not your place. But being a human being, this is just human to human. No, I don't need anyone to take care of me. Not my colleagues, not my patients, no one, right? I take care of myself. But I think it's just natural human nature, right? When they know these are patients that I've been taking care of for over almost 2 years, right? It'll be 2 years in December that I've been working at the hospital. And so I've been taking care of these men, you know, being there for them, being their emotional support, doing therapy with them, right? And so it's only natural for them to have an awareness, right, of what has impacted me in this moment in my life, this juncture, you know, and why I was out, and for them to express that empathy back. That's only human nature, you know, can't hide it, right? Some, like, they already knew, they just knew. So that's that. I do love you, Mom. And last words I said to her was, like, I'll see you soon. Time is a matter of perspective, right? So on that note, I'll end this video and catch you guys in the next one.